Hey, what's up guys? Are you feeling lost, anxious, or uncertain about the future? Well, don't worry because I'm here to help. And I'm not here to give you some basic vanilla advice that you've probably already heard a million times before. No, I'm here to give you some radical, controversial advice that will probably piss some people off. But hey, if you're feeling lost and anxious, maybe it is time to shake things up a bit, because sometimes all it takes is a little controversy to get your ass to take action. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Now let's be honest, plans suck. They're boring, they're predictable, and they rarely work out the way we want them to. You know, a friend of mine once told me this quote that I'll never forget, which was, "We plan, God laughs." And I thought it was quite a perfect way to put it. And yet we're told from a young age that we need to have a plan for our lives. We need to know what we want to be when we grow up, where we want to live, and who we want to marry. But the truth is that to a certain degree, plans are a waste of time. Now let me explain before you get all up on your high horse. See, you can plan all you want, but by the end of the day, life is pretty unpredictable. And no matter how much we plan, things will never really go exactly according to plan. And so instead of wasting time trying to make plans, why not embrace the chaos? Why not live life in this very moment and just see where it takes you? Who knows, maybe you will end up somewhere amazing, but you can only know if you try to find out. Some of you may be thinking, but Hisham, without a plan, how will I even achieve my goals? Well, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have any goals. I'm not saying that you shouldn't aim for anything meaningful. Goals are very important to have, and having a vision is also extremely important. But plans, they are, but only to a certain degree, at least not in the traditional sense, which is probably like most of you do it. See, goals give you direction and purpose, but plans, they tend to be a very rigid, inflexible way of trying to achieve those goals. And I understand that this may sound counterintuitive, but I'm actually not the only one who's saying this. In fact, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche believed that plans and goals can actually be quite detrimental to our lives. He argues that our obsession with planning and goal setting can lead us to live a life in the future, always chasing after some elusive end goal and never truly living in the present moment. Now, Nietzsche believed that we should embrace the present moment and live life with a sense of spontaneity and unpredictability. And when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense because, let's face it, your best moments in life and your most cherished memories were probably the most spontaneous ones. And Nietzsche wasn't the only philosopher to have this view. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus believed that life works very similar as a river, constantly flowing and ever changing. He famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he is not the same man."
Be formless, shapeless, like water.
Heraclitus believed that we should embrace the constant change and flow of our life and not try to cling on to the past or the future. So, if two of the greatest philosophers in history are telling us that plans are a waste of time, maybe, just maybe we should start to listen. Instead of obsessing over plans, we should focus on living in the present moment and embracing the unpredictability of life. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Hisham, what about my career? How can I advance in my career without a plan? Let me tell you a little secret. Most successful people didn't get to where they are today by following some rigid plan. They got there by being adaptable and flexible, by taking risks and seizing opportunities when they presented themselves. For example, Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, dropped out of college and spent time exploring different interests such as calligraphy and Eastern spirituality, before eventually founding one of the most successful companies in history. If he had followed some strict plan, he may have never discovered his true passion and changed the world with his innovations. And so instead of trying to plan out every little aspect of your life, focus on developing skills that will make you adaptable and flexible. Learn to embrace change and take risks, because by the end of the day, you never know where life will bring you, but if you're open to it, it might just take you exactly to the most amazing place that you can ever think of. And if you're still not convinced, let me leave you with one final thought on this point. The late and great comedian George Carlin once said, "Life is not a journey to be taken with a map. It's a journey to be taken with a compass." So throw away that map, embrace the chaos, and let your inner compass guide you on your journey. Number 2, give yourself permission to fail. One of the reasons why we feel lost and uncertain about the future is because we're too afraid to fail. We're afraid that if we're trying something new and fail, it means that we are the failure. But the truth is that failure is absolutely necessary for success, and quite frankly, it is also inevitable. Every successful person has failed at some point in their life, and the reason why they're successful is that they didn't let failure define them. They kept pushing forward, learning from their mistakes and improving themselves along the way. I know what some of you might be thinking, but Isham, failure is painful and it's embarrassing. How can I just give myself permission to fail? Well, first of all, let me tell you that failure really isn't the end of the world. Just think about it. Think about the last time you failed. Like, did you die? Are you not around anymore? Of course you're not, because you're watching me right now. See, failure is necessary for personal growth, whether you like it or not. It's, as the famous saying goes, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And therefore, it only makes sense to embrace failure as an opportunity to learn and improve ourselves. The ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius believed that we should embrace our failures and mistakes. He said, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Now I understand. Giving yourself permission to fail is much easier said than done, and so let me give you some practical advice on how to do it. First of all, redefine what failure means to you. Instead of seeing failure as a negative thing, see it as a necessary step towards success. And when you fail, ask yourself what you can learn from the experience and how you can use that knowledge to improve in the future. I remember in my early 20s, I had a really tough time talking to girls. I got rejected so many times, and every time I got rejected, I took it as something very personal. I was the one who felt like a failure. Until one day, I decided to detach myself from this and just try to figure out how I could navigate those failures and just try to do 1% better with each next interaction. And that's how I became the player that I am today. Just kidding. Secondly, surround yourself with people who support you and hold you accountable for slacking. Having a support system, like I've said this before, having a support system can make literally all the difference when it comes to facing your fears and, just trying new things. And finally, don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. Humor can be a very powerful tool when it comes to dealing with failure. Louis C.K. once said, "I'm not afraid to look like an idiot, and neither should you." Because when you can laugh at yourself, you take away the power from failure and put it back in your own hands. Give yourself permission to fail. Try new things. Take risks. Don't be afraid to fall on your face, because when you do, you'll learn valuable lessons that will help you succeed in the long run. Number 3, stop caring what other people think. I get it. We all want to be liked and we all want to fit in. I get it. I'm no exception to that rule. But the truth is that trying to please everyone literally is a waste of time, because it's impossible. You just can't. I mean, you can try, but you'll probably just end up miserable. Now, I know that for some of you, this particular aspect is much easier said than done, because it's natural to care about what other people think. Even from an evolutionary standpoint, caring about what other people thought of us for the longest time in history was even essential for our own freaking survival. So from a biological perspective, you could say that wanting to be accepted and valued by our peers is to a degree embedded in our DNA. The reality, however, is that worrying too much about what other people think can truly hold us back from achieving who we want to become, achieving our goals, and just being true to ourselves, quite frankly. According to a study by the American Psychological Association, people who are highly self-conscious and concerned about what other people think of them are more likely to experience social anxiety and depression. This is because they're constantly seeking validation and approval from others, which, if you think about it, can be quite exhausting and unsustainable in the long run. But the good news is that there are ways to overcome this mindset, and one way is to focus on your own values and goals rather than what other people think of you. Psychologist Abraham Maslow believed that self-actualization, or let's say the realization of one's full potential, is the highest level of a human need. And so when we focus on our own personal growth and our own fulfillment, we are less likely to be swayed by the opinions of others. Another way to stop caring what other people think is to cultivate a sense of self-compassion. This means treating yourself with the same kindness and concern and understanding that you would offer to a good friend, for example. Because when we are kinder to ourselves, we are less likely to be affected by the negative opinions of other people. And finally, don't be afraid to be different. In fact, being different is a good thing. The author of the book This Is Marketing, I think it was by Seth Godin, he once said, in a crowded marketplace, fitting in is a failure, and in a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. Now, I also have my own personal quote that I like to use to remind myself of the very same thing we're actually talking about here on this channel today, just, to be cool, to have your own quotes. And the quote goes as follows: "No masterpiece was ever made with the intention of fitting in."
Oh my God!
Having said all of this, I think it's time for you to embrace your uniqueness, follow your own voice, stop worrying about what other people think, and focus on your own journey. And if you can accomplish that, my friend, you are well on your way to a happy and fulfilling life. Stay savage.